And we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by the Keeg, where we literally have 24 hours to read our comics when they come out on Wednesdays, and we do a show on Thursday nights. 24 hours to read everything that we can, DC, Marvel, Indie. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, with our special guest, Drew, aka Drew Deficit, aka spelled out Drew X Deficit, because you don't want to drop that X, you know?
No. The X is very important.
Is there a Drew Deficit that doesn't have an X in it?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know him.
The world may never know. Yeah. Drew, welcome back. People watching us live on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, they can see you. But, if you're watching or listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, can't see Drew, but you can hear him.
You know what's crazy? I can see them too.
You can see everybody?
I can see them. Even the ones who are listening to this pre-recorded, I can see them.
Ooh.
I can see into the future.
That's your superpower.
Yeah. It's not particularly useful, but I can do it.
You know, it has to help somehow. We can turn it into something. I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll go.
Yeah. Drew, you're the only guest that I have today. Ambrosia was supposed to come on, but she had an emergency, so no worries to Ambrosia. Ambrosia's great. But it's just me and you today. Do you feel like there's more pressure when it's just a 2-person show versus a 3-person show?
I never feel pressure of any kind ever. I don't take my life particularly seriously, so I never feel like there's any pressure for me to do well in anything.
Okay, I'm not sure if I like that as the producer of this show. I don't know how I feel. I was at LA Comic-Con this last weekend, and I got to do a panel, Podcasting 101. And I plugged this show, and I did the best that I could, and I plugged this show. And then I was invited to go on the panel right after it, and I plugged the show again on Geekscape. So shout out to Geekscape out there, and
nice.
Shout out to Digital LA for the first panel. Shout out to Geekscape for the second panel. But I realized that the most succinct way to explain this show is that we have 24 hours to read as much as we can before we go live.
Yeah, that makes it, I feel like that adds stakes to it,
Yeah, but we both have read a lot this week.
Yeah, I didn't read everything that I wanted to, but I did read a lot.
Okay. Let's go through your list and let's go through mine, and there's going to be overlap and there's not going to be overlap,
I read from DC, I read Action Comics number 1070.
Mm-hmm.
I read Batman and Robin number 14.
Mm-hmm.
I read Green Lantern Civil Corps Special number 1,
mm-hmm.
which is there's only one of those.
Yeah.
I read the big boy, quite literally and figuratively in the comics world, Absolute Batman number 1.
Yeah.
And then I read from Dynamite, I read Terminator number 1.
You didn't tell me this. I would have read it and joined on it.
I did not know that I was going to be picking it up until I got to the shop, and I was just like, oh, you know what? I'll pick this up. So
okay.
And then I also read Minor Arcana number 2 from Boom Studios.
Okay.
I picked up Ultimates number 5.
Uh-huh.
But I am behind on that, so I need to read 3 and 4 before I read this one. I picked up Crocodile Black number 5, which is a series that I love, but I didn't get to it. I picked up Distillery put out a book called Life, that there's now 2 issues of. I picked up the second one, but I hadn't read the first one yet. So I read the first one, and then I was reading the second one when I said to myself, I got to do this show really soon, so I didn't get a chance to finish it.
Okay. All right. Did you also get Batman Gotham by Gaslight Kryptonian Age?
No, I didn't. I was going to pick that up and then I didn't.
That's fair. I mean, if I'm like, in my personal opinion, my humble opinion, I'm probably gonna read that in trade. I'm
Yeah.
not in a rush. Elseworlds have to be really dynamic for me to
Hmm.
want to read it month to month.
Have you read the uh what is it? The Dark Knights of Steel All Winter?
Yeah, yeah, I'm reading
Uh
it.
those are great.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that is something that's like you read that when it comes out.
yeah. It's funny because I'm going to be talking about an Elseworlds DC book, today.
Cool.
What did I read? I also read Absolute Batman #1. I read Action Comics 1070. I read Batman and Robin 14, Green Lantern Civil Corps Special, Ultimates #5, Amazing Spider-Man 59, Fantastic Four 26, the whole X-Men kit and caboodle, Exceptional X-Men #2, X-Force 4, Phoenix 4, Sentinels #1, and then I also read DC versus Vampires World War V #3, I think, and then Marvel Zombies Dawn of Decay #2. And that's what I got.
Cool.
Yeah. Um Unfortunately I didn't go any third party comics this week. I was thinking about Terminator cuz I do like me some Terminator, you
Yeah,
know.
I'm with you. I'm a sucker for the Terminator franchise. Even though I've never really read any Terminator comics, but
Neither have I.
it was the writer on this was what caught me.
Who's the writer?
It's a Dalton Shelby.
What have they done?
Um, I want to say they did some Moon Knight stuff a while back.
Okay.
Definitely some covers, but I can't remember if they did any if he did any like interiors. But
Okay. Okay. Um we'll get to everything. It's just me and you, and we
yeah,
don't talk much. We're not big
okay.
talkers, so this show's going to go real
I'm
quick.
I'm not a big talker.
You're not a big talker. I'm not a big talker. I feel like you know, uh this show will be like 5 minutes long, you know? I hope people are
It's gonna be me going all absolute Batman. I liked it.
yeah. There are, and it's so funny because like it's funny because like we do podcasts, we do our thing, and it's like yeah, there's a lot of people out there who you ask them how something went, and they're like, it was good.
Yeah. I've done between like my time in music and then like my time in like, the comic book sphere.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of podcasts. I've been interviewed a lot for a bunch of different reasons.
Uh huh.
And I'll tell you what, there are some people who host podcasts who just shouldn't. And
Are
and
you
like
me?
no, not you. You are good at
How
you
backhanded would that be? You're like you're
you are good at it. Um But like some people, like if you're like a podcast format interview
yeah,
is just two people having a conversation,
yeah.
and they're bad at that. And so
Yeah,
like a lot of like stagnant silence, very awkward conversation.
yeah,
It's rough. I will say that you are really good at it. Um, um, Cody,
yeah,
who you've had on the show,
yeah.
has he and
Christian.
Christian have their own podcast, and I've done that twice. Actually, technically three times because we did it live once at C2E2. They are really good at holding a conversation with people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thankful that you guys are like, I wouldn't do this with you so often if
Yeah.
you weren't good at it.
Well, let's be honest. Like coming on a podcast once, okay, you get an invite, you go on once. But
Yeah.
anything more than once, like you can like there's an obligation to come on once maybe for somebody
Mhm.
if you feel obligated. But nobody in the right mind would feel obligated to always come on a podcast. Once a
Yeah.
month, the amount that you come on this podcast, that's
Yeah.
that's
I
that
enjoy it.
shouldn't be an obligation. Good. Good. Let's talk about our picks of the week.
Cool.
and then we'll get into the rest of the things. It was a light week for DC.
It was this is the first week of the All In initiative, unless you count the special last week, but like this is the first full week of it. Um,
Well, no,
well, I
because
guess technically last week was the first week. Yeah.
Poison Ivy, Birds of
Poison-
Prey,
Yeah.
um,
Green
Shazam,
Shazam, yeah.
Batman. Yeah,
Yeah, Batman. Which I guess Batman was supposed to, I don't know if you saw the whole thing, that it was like supposed to be bi-weekly and now it's monthly. So there's actually going to be like a gap or something. Bleeding Cool was reporting that. I don't know what's going on with that,
yeah. Okay, yeah,
which I mean, I know we're not talking about last week's comics, but I liked that issue of Batman quite a bit.
yeah. That one was, and we tried not to spoil it too much. Um, it was we had Tessa on the show. Tessa is a
Mhm.
nerd. And we talked about it, and we were like, try not to spoil the ending, but like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was a
I
good,
I
it
like.
was a good.
Have you been liking the setup of like these all in, like the first issues of this all in initiative? Like they're supposed to be like almost like a pilot again, a new
Yeah, I
season
mean,
premiere.
for some of them, like Poison Ivy, you mentioned, Poison Ivy doesn't like it's a good jumping on point for a new reader, but it doesn't feel like I've been reading that since issue one. It doesn't feel like a jumping on point to me. I can definitely see how it would be for someone, but it just feels like the continuation of the story to me. And I really liked it. I really liked that first issue of Poison Ivy, which kind of ties into there's a little bit of a tie-in to Batman and Robin this week.
Hmm.
Um,
I'm
very
curious how, but
it's
okay.
small, but we'll talk
Yeah,
about that because we both read that book.
yeah. I mean, let's just jump into it. What's your pick of the week?
I think it's going to be Absolute Batman. Listen, I am a Batman guy, right?
Okay.
Like I would consider myself to be an expert on Batman. Not necessarily because I know everything, because I don't,
Yeah.
but like I have enough of a grasp on Batman as a character to like if you were to kind of like ask me to put together an analysis of Batman angles. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm always very reluctant to make a Batman book my pick because I just feel like it's cliche for me.
I agree with you, except I mean, when Batman's good, it's good.
Yeah.
But Batman, like really good next level Batman comics, they have to like be innovative with
Hmm.
the character in a
Yeah.
way that makes sense and stays true to the character, but also like makes you like, oh, I never thought of that. So like
Yeah.
I like Batman the Knight. I don't know if you read that.
I didn't finish it, but I started reading it.
Oh,
I have all the issues. It was one of those ones I just kind of like, I don't know. I brought them all home, but I didn't read all of them.
I
And
mean,
I know that
it's
that
really
ties
good.
into Zdarsky's run,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I haven't finished it. I need to.
Okay.
And
So
I mean,
what were you saying before I interrupt you?
I bring all that up to say that like, I hesitate to make Batman like a Batman book my pick most of the time. And so like when we were coming up, whenever we were kind of planning this episode, I was in the back of my mind saying like I'm not going to make Absolute Batman my pick. But it's a pretty strong first issue. It does not everything about the Batman mythos is gone from it. And like it's this really interesting space between like it's not a total reinvention because I think that a lot of the things that work in this work because that like there are things that about Batman that this is in kind of passively acknowledging.
Yeah.
Like it only works because you know what the regular like I guess I think they still call it Earth Prime or Prime Earth,
Yeah. Prime
you
Earth.
know
Yeah.
you know that Batman. So like it is kind of dependent upon, or at least it's maybe not dependent is the right word, but like um your understanding of it is will depend upon what you know about Batman already. Like the regular real I shouldn't say real because they're both real, but like the regular Batman.
I agree that there's something special about Absolute Batman #1 that I wasn't rooting for it when it was announced, you know?
Yeah.
I would say though that like if you change the care if you took the story and you made it not about Batman, you made it about some other vigilante, I think this still works.
I think so too. There are things in it that would need to be kind of explained a little bit more because they won't have the same punch.
Yeah.
I don't know how into spoilers you want to get, but
Um, I'm all for this. This is the first issue. I would recommend that people go to comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you, support your local comic shops, pick this one up. But like, we got to get to the nitty gritty, and like, a lot happens in this book.
yeah.
And if we're talking analysis, I would love to. I would love to,
Well,
dig deep.
I don't know how deep you want to get into it, but let me pull out my issue
I mean,
here.
we
So
do have a time limit on this show,
sure.
which but like,
But I mean, okay, so it starts off it's first of all, I love the double page spread of just a gun.
let me show the main audience that. Put it up.
Here, let me pick that up there.
Yeah.
Just like that is the second and third page of the issue is just, and that's what I'm saying.
What's the first
Like
page?
the first page is just this oh, we're at the zoo.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah. That's right.
And your title page has the gun on it, which that silhouette of that gun, it's one of those things, man. Like if you know Batman, that the context of Batman makes that gun hit harder. You can put together what it means, what happened because of this gun without the context of Batman, right? But it is dependent upon the context of that Batman of your knowledge of Batman to have that weight. Um, I and then we go to, I mean, like the issue is being narrated by like this, kind of almost shady kind of dude who's coming into town talking about, oh, Gotham's so different. It's not what it was like whenever I left here last time I was here, blah 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 blah. And then he like sits down and buys a drink and it's Alfred Pennyworth.
Yeah.
Um and he's there on a job. He's essentially like a hitman, right? Like that's what I've put together, or at least a hired gun.
He's a like a mercenary in a way,
Yeah.
right? Like a mercenary
Yeah.
slash spy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a spin on Alfred, like regular Prime Earth Alfred's
Yeah.
past.
Let
Uh,
me I wanna chime in real quick about the way they do Absolute Batman, which I think is great. I feel like, and this has to do with it's funny because like Marvel has the Ultimates that we'll also talk about.
mhm.
But when DC and Marvel do their like alternate timeline sort of stories, what they'll do is it'll either branch off of the main timeline, like one decision makes things different, or um, it'll just be a parallel timeline where it's like instead of the Justice League in our time, Justice League are cowboys, and that was a
Yeah,
real legitimate thing, like Justice Riders, right? And like, but they'll always do the sort of paint by numbers Mad Lib sort of swapping things in and out, right?
yeah,
It'll be like, let's just say it's Batman, but he's a knight in shining armor. It'll, which was actually Dark Knights of Steel, but whatever. Let me pick something else. Batman in what's a genre? Detective noir, whatever. So
yeah.
Batman,
I
he's
mean, they've done it all. They've
yeah,
done They've done Batman is a holy like Templar knight during the Crusades. They've done
Right,
uh, Batman is a vampire. They've done
right,
Batman is a bat,
right.
right?
But the thing is, they'll always do this thing where Bruce Wayne, the knight in shining armor, his parents died via a bad guy shooting an arrow at them.
Yeah.
And then he was raised by his squire Alfred. And then,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
they'll do the, I mean, it'll be the same exact thing. You just swap things out.
Right.
And so, like,
Which I mean that's not inherently bad to do. It's not like it's like like that's a complaint at all. It's because there is sometimes just by switching something up but keeping some of the things that makes it it kind of recontextualizes the things that which this book does do a little bit kind of, but it is
it does
in a
its own thing. Like, I
yeah,
feel
I
like
mean
that's what the strong part of this is that
it is done in a way that has never been done with Batman before.
yeah, I couldn't get my bearings. I felt
Yeah.
like I was underwater while reading this and I didn't know which way was up because I
And
was
I
like,
mean,
what am I grasping onto? What am I trying to make sense of, you know?
so I mean, let's go through all
Yeah.
the things. Like, okay, so he is like Bruce Wayne is in his 20s. He is not a billionaire. He's never been rich. His dad was a teacher. His mom was
Was she
like
a
I think it was a
social
nurse or
worker?
something. Social worker.
Was
Yeah,
that what
yeah.
it yeah.
And so like he did not come from money. Um he's more like he's got this working class background. His dad was killed.
He is a genius though. They give
He is
him
very
that.
yeah, he is a genius. Um he's like a engineering genius.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, his dad was killed at this day at the zoo many years ago. We don't know why. His
I don't know whether we'll ever know. You know what? Okay, I mean, let's just break down that. The fact that it's like a lone gunman
maybe
going on a I mean, that as far as I can see, going on a shooting spree while Thomas Wayne is showing kids around the zoo,
yeah.
including Bruce. I got so sad. I got
It's
Did you see the part where the kid trips and he's
mhm.
like reaching out? I thought that at first read through, I thought he left him behind, but no, I
Yeah.
mean that's not Thomas Wayne. But like I had to read it again to be like, no, Thomas Wayne picks him, carries him, throws them into the room and shuts it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and I mean, like his mother is still alive in this.
Which that was a
Um,
because we see the mother earlier
mhm.
and you don't know her name,
Yeah.
and then you see her at the end, and I was like, oh, it was
Um,
good.
he one of the things that I really liked about this is like when we first are introduced to Bruce Wayne, like as an adult, he's training at Waylon Jones's gym.
Yeah,
And he's like childhood friends with who we know as Killer Croc, the Penguin, um
Harvey,
Harvey Dent and
Selena,
Selena Kyle.
yeah,
And there's like that cool, there's that picture. It's like a photograph of all of them together as
as
kids.
kids.
Um, the and there's a couple other people in there too. Um,
Is there?
there's Eddie. Who's Eddie?
Oh, Nigma, Riddler.
Oh, Eddie Nigma. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Were you ironically asking the question, who is Eddie?
no, I just always
That's
think
the
of
riddle.
I always think of him as Edward. So
Yeah.
when people call him Eddie, I don't put it
I
together.
think of Eddie
Um,
Brock if I'm thinking about a comic book Eddie. But yeah.
yeah. I really liked um there was a whole thing about like death masks in this. I really liked that whole sequence. The Maronis and the Falcones like are still there, but they're different than they used to be. This it is I mean it is all of this stuff is recontextualized for a modern audience, which I mean like it seems like is great to do, but what it's doing in particular is it seems like it's like using it's doing my favorite thing, which is using superheroes to talk about the world in which we live. Which I think that's the point of superheroes now.
Yeah.
Um, and so I mean you do have like his dad was killed in just a random shooting. His dad, the teacher, was killed in a random shooting at a seemingly random shooting anyway,
Yeah.
at a school function, which is like unfortunately a terrible reality we have to deal with. But um, it looks like uh, I mean, there's this whole political commentary about Jim Gordon is mayor in this
Yeah.
and like the ineffectiveness of his office. Um, uh, I think that making Batman not a rich person completely changes the relationship between Batman and crime in general, which is really, I mean, he's also he's a little bit more um I guess you can say brutal. I mean, he
He
is
is way more brutal, right?
I mean like he's he has an understanding there's like that line in that he's like using the knives that come out of his head, which is crazy, but
The
and
gadgets in this issue, like I have never seen
well,
before.
and I mean they're engineering marvels, which is that's his thing. He's an engineer in this.
Yeah.
Um but I mean it just all but like the Alfred has the line because he's watching all this big fight at City Hall happen. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, he's so precise that he's not even like cutting the arteries, and it's just like I get it. It's kind of just like a thrown in line so that like, oh no, this Batman is as brutal as we want him to be, but he's not killing anybody, right?
Right.
Um, there's of course like the panel he chops a guy's hand off and then essentially tells him like, hey, there's a hospital,
Yeah.
you go figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I'm okay with the brutality that he uses against the party animals, because the party animals are next level psychotic.
yeah,
They burn daycares with children inside. Like
yeah,
they are worse than the mutants that are in Dark Knight Returns.
mhm,
Like the Dark Knight Returns mutants are a gang and they're brutal. The party animals are like a step up more sadistic,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And yeah, and I mean then it all kind of leads us to this moment at the end when we find out that Batman in this, Bruce Wayne, is not among the rich and elite like he
Yep.
would be in the regular DC universe, but the Joker is in this.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's how it ends. That's right.
which I think is, I mean, it seems like all the villains are going to be like rich, elite, high society types. Um, very poignant commentary on where we find ourselves in current America because a lot of people feel that way because of the wealth inequality.
Yeah, I think what people, and I see this coming out in Absolute Batman #1, what they were saying is the goal of this Absolute universe is essentially making the superheroes the underdogs, and
Hmm.
not in a
Yeah,
way that is in, for people who are familiar with the DC multiverse, it's not Earth 3 where the good guys are bad guys are good guys, and evil always wins. It's that like you pile on top of these heroes and you're like, the idea that like heroes always win, let's have you work extra hard to
yeah,
make that happen. um so it's definitely putting Bruce on his back feet,
yeah,
essentially. um there's a lot to love about this one, and I mean we got to move on to like other things, but like I uh I'm gonna be really upset if any of those kids, the villains that we know in the regular universe, if any of those characters turn bad. I'm gonna be very upset. Like, I don't think we need them to be bad. I don't think Waylon Jones needs to be bad. I don't think Oswald Cobblepot or Edward Nygma or like Harvey Dent. I don't want them to be. Like let's just I'm okay with like wherever they're going with this.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
I think it'll be interesting to see because the flip of like the wealth dynamics in this changes those characters. Like it changes the way they turn out. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I imagine that some of them will. At least one of them will. But I don't know
I'm
how soon that'll be.
I don't know what I loved like what hit me in the heart more is that picture of them as kids, which, you know, is not prime Earth canon, but also the Bruce Wayne, his mom being alive, waiting on the stoop as he walks up. And like
Yeah.
somebody called him, like they said, like Bruce Wayne's a mama's boy. Like somebody online had posted about it.
Mhm.
And it's like, I like that idea of like mama's boy Bruce. And I hope she doesn't tie either. I know
Yeah.
that like he has a lot coming up against him, but like there's something that sets this absolute universe apart. And I hope that that's what it is. It's not
Yeah.
like the characters can be sadistic, but the writers aren't. You know?
Yeah. I like that. Um Sorry, I'm just kind of like going through the issue again because
Yeah.
I'm just looking at I we didn't talk about Nick Dragata's art, which is I mean, I read East of West when that was coming out. That was my introduction to him. He has a very kind of like East meets West sort of feel. Like it's definitely like superhero art, but it has an anime or like a manga style to it.
Mm-hmm.
But he does a thing throughout this that I really like, which is a lot of small panels that kind of like lead the eye and really like show these quick moments.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
there's
art's
a lot
good.
to like. There's a lot to like about this book.
It it seems very Dark Knight Returns in the art, like the Frank Miller art in a way, but I mean, you know, in my opinion, better. But like, it is what it is.
Yeah,
Um, so I think it's like harkening back to that. So I like it.
yeah.
Um, I I don't know whether this is my pick of the week, but I feel like jumping into this because it's a mirror image of what's going on with Absolute Batman. So it's not my pick of the week necessarily. It was good, but it's not my pick of the week. Ultimate's number 5. I want to talk about it because
Okay.
DC has the Absolute Universe now, and Marvel has the new Ultimate Universe because they had the old Ultimate Universe and now they have the new one. And the question is like when you're doing these alternate timelines that are essentially imprints in and of themselves, like for the uninitiated, like imprints for like DC Comics, you know, are like Vertigo or what was the Gerard Way one that he did?
Uh, it
Milk was that
it
was
was Young Animal.
Young Animal, right? And so like it's a string of comics that are kind of set aside from the main, you know, universe in a way, tonally or in a different timeline or whatever. So
Yeah.
Marvel has the Ultimate Universe, DC has the Absolute Universe. And like Ultimate's number 5, um this this issue was good, and the Ultimate Universe as a whole is picking up to me because I was hating on Ultimate X-Men for a little bit.
Hmm.
It got better, and I'm digging it. I'm back to digging it. So all the Ultimate books are firing.
I have only read a couple of them, but those couple being Ultimate Spider-Man, which I really like.
Of course, yeah.
And like I said, I read like the first 2 issues of Ultimates, and I also really liked those. So I am behind on this one. But it also who's writing this? This is Denny Camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which I mean, this is the first thing I've read by him. But apparently he's very well regarded
Mm,
among more people more well versed in Marvel than I am.
yeah,
Um, I've been into it.
yeah.
So you since I did not read this issue,
I mean,
tell
I
me
don't
all.
want to talk too much about it, but what I'm trying to draw is this similarity of like, even though they're similar in a way, they're different. There's an innovation that comes with
Mhm.
people who say like comics are boring or stale or just like spinning their wheels. I'd like to believe that these publishers are trying. Like, I think there's an innovation with the Absolute Universe and, DC Comics as a whole. I think that there's an innovation going on with the Ultimate Marvel Universe, the new one. I'm in on it. So basically, the basic premise of this issue, last issue, I think was the issue where it was Ultimate Doom going through his own like flashbacks of being Reed Richards. Was not
Right,
a
right.
fan of that issue. I thought that issue was kind of a filler issue. This one though, essentially, and I applaud them for some of these choices they make in this. Basically, the premise is that like in this alternate timeline, Tony Stark, aka Iron Lad, went to the people that would have been heroes in the
Mhm.
616 main Marvel universe and gave them the means to become that hero again. So he does that with Peter Parker in Ultimate Spider-Man. And in this issue, it shows that he did that with Clint Barton, right?
Yeah.
And so he gave Clint Barton a way to be Hawkeye, and Clint Barton says no, and he throws it in a trash can. Um, this character, Ultimate Hawkeye, who is known as Charlie Ramsey, I believe.
Okay.
Charlie Ramsey is Native American, and they pick up the suit and they use it for social activism purposes, like taking down a pipeline, that sort of thing. And
Okay.
so essentially Iron Lad sends Captain America to get that equipment back, and Captain America fights Ultimate Hawkeye and defeats Ultimate Hawkeye after a good amount of time, and then says that he's not going to take away their equipment, but like bring them on the team
Yeah.
essentially. So, and I say they because Charlie Ramsey is never specified one way or another, gender wise.
Yeah.
And the writer has stated that although in this issue they don't state the character is non binary, um, states that they are non binary because of the way that tribe dealt with people of two spirits.
Okay.
So it is a cultural thing with this character
Sure.
in that respect. And so like I was like, okay, I applaud you on that. I also applaud the writer on just not doing another like Clint Barton. What's Clint Barton up to in this timeline? He's
Yeah.
Ultimate Hawkeye, which I think is like, okay, whatever. And this is a character, and I had to look it up. Charlie Ramsey is not a character in the 616.
Yeah. So this is an entirely new character.
Yep. And I think that there's a level of like the opposite of laziness, right?
Yeah.
Because like the original Ultimate Marvel Universe was lazy at times and innovative at times, and then
Yeah.
shock value at times. And like when they are lazy, it's just like, yes, Hank Pym is Ant-Man, Janet Van Dyne is Wasp. Like everything's the same except they're just shittier people. But
Yeah.
in this, it's a little bit different. She-Hulk in this is not Jennifer Walters. Things like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Ultimates 5. I liked it.
Yeah. I need to get caught up on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell, maybe this is my pick of the week. Let's just call this my pick of the week. All right. Um I don't know. I think it's interesting. What else did you read?
Let's see. I know that you read Batman and Robin
Mm-hmm.
14, right?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Batman and Robin 14. I've been reading Batman and Robin.
I have been too.
This is the first issue of the All In,
Yeah. And
initiative.
I am a big fan of Philip Kennedy Johnson and his writing, and so I was very excited for this. Um I think that he writes characters with pretty unique voices. Like they don't all feel like his writing.
Yeah.
Uh, and I was excited to see him take on not just Batman, but also like Damien, who's a kid. And it's really hard for an adult to write a kid convincingly sometimes.
Who was who was the writer before him?
Joshua Williamson.
Oh. Why am I getting the two of them mixed up?
I don't know. They're not the same person.
No. Joshua Williamson and Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Yes.
Did they both write The Flash?
Um, Philip Kennedy Johnson, I don't think wrote The Flash. He wrote War World, the
Okay.
that big Superman
One of my favorites, yeah.
yeah, it's great. He wrote uh Green Lantern War Journal most
Mm-hmm.
recently.
I'm looking through it. He's also writing Crocodile Black.
Crocodile Black, yeah, which is it's that's an indie book that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah.
I have come to be a big fan of this guy, and I'll pretty much read whatever he writes.
Okay. Um, I like I liked it. Somebody online pointed out that like Damien is back to being a brat in this,
Yeah,
and I hope it doesn't I hope that's just a fluke in a way because like Damien's gone through a lot of growth recently. And
yeah,
like he can be bratty, but he's not a full brat
sure.
like he used to be. So I hope that gets fixed. But I do like the artwork. I do like Batman being a father, but that's been prevalent in this series, right? That's
Hmm.
what this series is about.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm not quite sure about this series just yet. What sets it apart? I don't know. I don't know yet.
I've enjoyed it. There's little things, there are little things that are just being developed about Damien that I've liked. The fact that he's like very into art, I think is a really cool thing, a part of his character, which isn't new. That was established in the Williamson run, even
Yeah.
really before that, in like that little Robin series that he did.
Yeah.
But but I do like that. I like that there's just a little things about his character. I liked the some of the ways that Batman, the inner monologue um for Batman in this, the uh you know just little things like I can't if I can't be in the shadows, I'll bring the shadows to me.
Oh
um
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when he has to he has to fight people in his tuxedo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's not a groundbreaking issue at all, but I thought there was a solid Batman issue.
Yeah. I just need to know what that thing is. Is it a demon? What's that in the boiler room?
Yeah.
You know? What were you gonna say that's a poison ivy reference in this?
So, in the opening sequence, I guess you could call it like the cold open. Well, I guess not the cold open, but in the beginning, Batman and Robin are chasing uh some guys driving away.
Yeah.
They're members of the Order of the Green Knight, which is like a cult that is showing up in the Poison Ivy book.
Mm.
Um, and like the All In issue, this first issue of the All In initiative of Poison Ivy, uh, saw her like learning about this Order of the Green Knight.
Okay.
And they're essentially like eco terrorists who think that like they're doing what Poison Ivy should be doing. Like they think they're like on the same side.
Okay.
And she doesn't like that.
Okay. Uh, I need to get back into Poison Ivy because I'm about like 10 issues behind, like if not 12.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
but
good.
I can
It's
catch up.
good.
So let's. I mean, X-Men. You have you fallen off of X-Men? You're not interested in any of the 4 series that came out this week?
I am interested in all the ones that I've been reading,
Okay.
which is X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X Factor.
Mm-hmm.
I did read the first issue of Exceptional. I didn't pick up the second one.
Because it wasn't for you. It's
It's not that it
fair.
wasn't
It's fair.
it's not that it wasn't for me because I really did like the first issue. Uh I liked the first issue was all about Kitty, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like a Kitty book, right? I liked it. I liked seeing what she was up to. There were a lot of little character moments that I liked a lot.
Yeah.
But I read it when I was in my comic shop working, and it wasn't one that I picked up like
Yeah.
and bought. So I didn't want to add another one to I didn't want to spend more money is really what it
Yeah.
comes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just gonna rush through the 4 of these and just get them out of the way. So,
Cool.
Exceptional X-Men number 2, I thought was good. Kitty is running into essentially these kids, these new kids that
Hmm.
are, exhibiting their powers as mutants, and so, as of the end of this issue, she has 3 kids that need guidance, and she's like, I'm done. Like, I'm not part of this anymore. And so that's kind of the premise of like Kitty's, like she's starting off with like she's done with this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, Kitty does go on a date with a girl in this. It
Yeah.
is out there in canon, so um, we deal with the girl Bronze, I believe, from issue 1,
Mhm.
but then we deal with the 2 other mutants that are here, and then it ends with Emma Frost dropping by. So
Yes.
that's really what I'm looking forward to is Emma Frost and Kitty stuff. The 3 kids here, not necessarily big fans. One of which has phasing powers, which is cool when it comes to like, oh, Kitty gets to train somebody who has phasing powers, but also it just seems like a rehash of Kitty. So
Right.
what are we doing here? It's the same power set. And I'm not a fan of people with the same power sets,
Yeah.
like on the same team or in the same book. It just seems redundant to me. But that's Exceptional X-Men number 2. I thought it was good. I'm going to keep reading it.
Yeah.
So, X-Force number 4, it's dragging to me. It doesn't seem that interesting. And this is issue number 4. Like, it is what it is. I just want to know who Tank is. So, the characters talk about Tank. They're like, is he a robot made by Forge? But who knows who Tank is? But I don't know. It's not that great of a series. It's not like standing out to me. Um, Phoenix number 4 though, I thought is good, but like Phoenix meets Gore the God Butcher, cool. There's a little cameo by Captain Marvel, cool. The art is great, so I have some hope for this one. And then
Yeah.
Sentinels number 1. I didn't really want this series to begin with. I don't find it that interesting. The characters are also not that interesting, but essentially the premise is that like I guess like these ex soldiers are being grafted into machinery to be sentinels essentially and be
Yeah.
a squad of black ops sentinel soldiers. It's whatever. It's take it or leave it. If that's your thing, cool. If it's not, whatever. Those are the 4 X
That's
titles.
it. That's the X-Men books.
Those are the 4, you know? There was better books this week that weren't X-Men. But,
Was one of those Action Comics number 1070?
I did like it a lot.
I did like that too. Yeah.
I was surprised. I mean, not that I'm surprised because I like Superman and everything, but like I I'm not a big fan of the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
I like the Phantom Zone when it's used as like as a like way to like clean up a problem. It'll be like, oh, Doomsday's like on the you know
Yeah.
rampage, and then like they'll be like, all right, let's send him to the Phantom Zone at the end of like 6 issues, and be like, okay, cool, fine, moving on. I like that. I don't like the Phantom Zone as a whole though.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you. However, I think that this is, first of all, it's noteworthy that I think that this is the first time that Mark Waid has ever been on an ongoing Superman book that where like Superman was like the main solo character, which is something that
Okay.
he's been wanting to do his entire career. So
Yeah.
this is like, in that regard, like if you followed Mark Waid, that's pretty big. Um, yeah, there were things. I mean, I liked this a lot. I did find it interesting that like, so like the plot of this is that like something comes out of the Phantom Zone and it's actually like three prisoners who were in there who fused together, and they're kind of uncontrollably wreaking havoc around Metropolis, Superman and Supergirl,
And
Quell
Jimmy.
and Jimmy. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Olsen does some heavy lifting here.
Yeah.
And so then
Um
man is like, I gotta go into the Phantom Zone because he says the thing like, I gotta go into the Phantom Zone because even if they're bad people, if they're suffering in there, I can't have that. Which I thought, first of all, it's a very Superman thing to say, but also like you did kind of put them in an infinite prison, so I think like they're suffering.
he didn't put them in an infinite prison. He didn't put them in the Phantom Zone.
Well, I guess yeah, it was more so the other Kryptonians, but he's put people there.
Yeah, he has. He has. Um and so, I mean, cool, but I don't know. This issue, although I don't like the Phantom Zone, it worked well to kind of show, you know,
Yeah,
it brought back gold kryptonite.
yeah,
It was Jimmy uses it, and so uh, that those Kryptonians that merge together, they're like kill us, right? They keep
yeah,
saying, and I thought Superman was going to. I thought gold kryptonite was going to kill them because
yeah,
they merged together, and then they use the gold K, and then now there's just 3 beings fused together. They would just automatically die. That wasn't the case, but
yeah.
cool.
Which like all I mean, another thing is who are the characters on this cover?
There, it's Superman, right? Who's on the cover? I'm looking at variant covers right now.
Well, on the main cover,
Oh, it's
the
Mon-El,
it
Superman, and
yeah, Mon-El is there, which I think it's Mon-El anyway. Like it looks like him.
that looks like Mon-El.
And then, but I don't know who this character at the bottom is.
The character looks familiar, but I can't quite place them.
Yeah,
It looks
that's
like Negative Man from Doom Patrol, but it's not. I know,
yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know who's on the cover, but that
yeah,
character doesn't pop up.
yeah. Which I mean, so this has to be some kind of like this has to be teasing for what comes next.
I think that Mon-El is in the Phantom Zone right now because
Uh,
basically, from what I remember, Mon-El is a Daxamite, and Daxamites are like genetic cousins to Kryptonians, although they're from the planet Daxam, and they're not
mhm.
weak against kryptonite, they're weak against lead. But the problem is that our current Earth has too much lead. So Mon-El is dying in the current times, so that he sends him to the Phantom Zone, and then he gets brought out of the Phantom Zone in the future with the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, interesting. See, I didn't know all that.
That's how they get him to the future. Because Mon-El is a Mon-El is a very interesting retcon for the Legion of Superheroes.
Hmm.
Because after so in pre-crisis DC, Superman when he was a kid, he was Superboy. And
Right.
Superboy is visited by the Legion of Superheroes who come back from the 31st century back to like 1,000 years, grab Superboy, and he goes on like crazy adventures as a young man. But in post Crisis, DC editorial was like, no, Superman has never been Superboy.
Yeah.
It's two things. It's Superman has never been Superboy, and there's no other Kryptonian other than Superman. Like, he is the last son of Krypton. So they had to jump through hoops to bring back characters that we know and love, but not make them Kryptonian, which is why
Right.
post-crisis Superboy was a pocket dimension Superboy. Post-crisis Supergirl was like an angel slash protoplasmic creature, whatever. And then
Right.
post-crisis Crypto was like a pocket dimension Crypto. And then
Hmm.
like because he had and post-crisis Zod was a dictator from Pokolistan, not a Kryptonian from the
Yeah.
Phantom Zone. So like things like that. Mon-El ends up being that post-crisis Superboy that
Right.
is the stand-in. Essentially is what it is. So Mon-El will probably pop up, but he just didn't in this issue, which I thought was false advertising. You know, because false advertising, Green Lantern Civil Corps. I talked about it on TikTok and Instagram, I guess, but like it has Red Lantern Sinestro on the cover. He doesn't
Does,
appear.
yeah.
You want to talk
Yeah.
about this one?
Yeah.
Um.
It also has like Jessica Cruz on the cover and Joe Mullen, and
Oh yeah,
they're not in this issue
yeah.
anyway.
You're right.
I imagine that we will see them, but uh, there is the secret character who's
In
kind of like
in the
hidden in the
shadow.
shadows.
Yeah,
We know who it is now in the issue,
yeah.
but
Yellow
uh,
Lantern Kilowog,
yeah.
which he doesn't seem like Kilowog though, right? Like there's something wrong with him.
Yeah, I would imagine that because it's kind of revealed. It's shown in this issue that like one of the characters, one of the villain characters, can like he like made people switch to a different side of the emotional spectrum,
Yeah,
and so I would imagine when that happens, it alters your personality a little bit.
yeah,
So this is what Kilowog would be like if he was actually scary.
yeah. Is yeah. This this was like setting up a new status quo because they kill Theros, right?
Yeah,
Like Theros has been, is being built up as the big bad this whole time, and then
yeah.
they kill him in this. So it's like, okay. And then you have the ultraviolet ring,
Hmm.
which I don't completely understand, but it is what it is. Um, is this
Is that the Dark Stars ring?
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the ultraviolet ring or am I wrong? Are those two different things?
I think those might be two different things.
Because there's the yeah. So
Because yeah, the Dark Stars is like an old Green Lantern thing that they brought back. Like
yeah.
old I don't know if it's Silver Age, maybe it's Bronze Age.
You're talking about the team?
The yeah, the kind of core, I guess,
Yeah, so
Dark
Dark
Stars core.
Stars, it's a Bronze Age thing. After the death of Coast City, after
Hmm.
Hal, you know, kills everybody, takes away their powers, only Kyle Rayner has the ring.
Right.
So all the other Green Lanterns have to like essentially have a purpose outside of having a ring. So like Guy Gardner is warrior, like
Warrior, yeah.
and then John Stewart runs essentially an intergalactic police sort of thing called the Dark Stars,
Yeah.
which Donna Troy is one of the Dark Stars. Um, Alan Scott's ring is not connected to the Green Lantern Corps, so he got to stay. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. I'm a little confused on what's going on, but I feel like this special is meant to get everybody on board so you can kind of
Yeah,
move forward from here.
yeah. There's stuff in this that I liked. There is stuff in this that I liked. But for the most part, it did just kind of feel like, okay, we got to get to the next thing.
Yeah, because they fight Theros, kill Theros pretty quick. Like it's
Yeah.
all So
Yeah. And I mean, we got to get to it. This is a stepping stone to get us to that Red Lantern Sinestro. Why are Jessica Cruz and Joe Mullen fighting each other? Like this cover is all just like a teaser for future stuff.
did you realize this? Because I didn't realize this until somebody online brought it up. It's a play on Civil War.
Yeah. No, yeah, I got that.
I didn't get that because I don't think it's I don't know Civil Core, right?
Yeah.
I saw it as like a civil serve, like because John Stewart's like an engineer, right? Like
Yeah.
I thought it was like a civil. It was supposed to be almost like a civil engineer sort
Right.
of situation. I thought they were gonna like rebuild things. I thought that's what it was, but no, it's a play on Civil War. Okay.
Hey, maybe by the end of the storyline, that's what it'll mean. Maybe it'll take on new meaning.
I would love to see them go full science fiction in a Star Trek sort of way and have the Green Lanterns try to fix some problems.
Yeah.
You know? But who knows? Um we've been talking a long time and we gotta talk about everything else that we read. So we're gonna rush through
You
everything.
read a lot more than I did, so
Yeah, but you read a lot of stuff that I didn't read at all. Um, did you read Crocodile Black or no?
I started to, I didn't get to finish it.
Okay, I mean, you got any quick thoughts about it, even though you didn't finish it?
Art's cool.
Cool, art's cool.
Yeah.
Um, did you read Life Number Two?
I picked it up. Uh, again, I was reading it when I realized that I was running out of time and I had to hop on here with you.
That's fair, but you did read Minor Arcana number two.
I did. Yeah. And that's a cool I mean, I'm first of all, it's Jeff Lemire doing doing writing and art. That is always good. He works so much better when like he is doing both sides of things. Um, like that's when he really shines. Not
Yeah,
that he isn't like a bad writer for other artists, but he just really, really shines when he's doing because his art is so distinct. Um, but yeah, so Minor Arcana is as issue one is about it's him kind of doing what he does best, which is people who have had to leave home coming back home, which is a thing that he has done many times, and it's always good. It's about a girl who comes home for the first time in a really long time. She is on the outs with her mom. Her mom also happens to be like the town fortune teller. So she like runs an occult shop, does like tarot readings, but her mom is like like an alcoholic.
mm-hmm.
Um, the last issue ends with this girl who doesn't believe in the occult at all. A woman is just like desperate to have a tarot reading done, and her mom is just drunk and passed out upstairs. So she's like, fine, I'll pretend I know what I'm doing. And then something happens. And so this issue picks up. The girl is like in this almost dream kind of fugue state where she's walking around a hallway and she opens one of the doors, and behind that door is a campsite. The dude sitting there is the husband of the woman who is getting the tarot reading done. And the woman is very old, but this guy's real young. And he's just like, yeah, well, I died 6 months into getting married to this woman, and she's been living her life without me, and I've just been waiting here for her, which is
Oh,
like the campsite is like where they had their honeymoon.
yeah.
Um, and so the girl's just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't,
Huh.
and it's cool.
You may have interested me with this one.
It moves it Jeff Lemire's when he does writing and art, his stuff moves really quickly. So like it's a quick read and it doesn't feel like a whole lot plot wise happens.
Okay.
But if you kind of like if you slow down and let yourself read it, like really like pick up on the details, as corny as it sounds, but like hear the voices, hear the sounds of the environment around them, really just immerse yourself in the story. His stuff is always really cool.
Okay. I might pick this one up. All right. Maybe. We'll see. You make it
I'm
sound
for it.
interesting.
I think you should do it.
Um, I think those are the books that you read, right? And I think I have a couple more, but that's pretty much it.
I got one last one, which was Terminator.
That's right. That's right. Tell me about Terminator.
Well, so this is a new number one. It's by Declan Shalvey. Art by
The Terminator, the illustrator.
Luke Sparrow. That's who it is.
Okay.
Um, and this, I think that it is a, I think that this is like an anthology series
Uh,
where it feels like, because like this felt like just like kind of a one and done. And then there's a little like blurb for next issue,
mhm.
which seems like it has nothing to do with what happened in this issue.
Okay.
Um, Declan Shalvey is an artist who started writing relatively recently.
Hmm.
Um, I think that he writes like an artist in the sense that like he really, really lets the visuals do the storytelling.
Okay.
So this is um I prefer a book that has um that is I maybe maybe this isn't the best way to describe it, but like something that is more text forward,
Yeah.
where like the writing is really driving and like the text itself is really driving things forward.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a literary guy, like I teach literature, I like the power of language.
Yeah.
Um, so when I read a book like this, which is letting the art do the heavy lifting, um, I can enjoy it, but I can tell that it's like not really my thing.
Yeah.
Um, I like when the two complement each other. That's the ideal, is when you have like good writing that is complementing good art that is reciprocating uh, compliments back to the writing.
Right.
That's the ideal situation. With this, it's like the art is doing the heavy lifting,
Hmm.
um, which makes it a short book for
Okay.
me.
All right.
And so there are some people who will like that a lot. There are others who will not
Not.
like it as much.
Okay.
Um, if you are looking for uh, a story that helps you doing what he is like, why this Terminator is doing what he is doing, you don't get that here. It's a very ambiguous. It leaves a lot to the imagination.
Okay. I like the Terminator. I like Terminator stuff. So I did want to pick this one up. So I'm gonna give it a shot. The final two books that I read that we haven't gone over before we end this: Marvel Zombies: Dawn of Decay #2. It's just a fun book. It's an all ages Marvel Zombies book, and
That's interesting.
it's based a little bit very like aesthetically. It's based on the MCU in a way, right? Like
Okay.
you can see them wearing their MCU outfits. The Avengers, it's the Avengers lineup from the MCU, but like there are some twists and turns and whatever. And the basic premise is that like Groot is sick and he sneezes on Captain America and he gives him a fungal virus. Like, so it's very Last of Us, but also there's no gore and things aren't being bitten per se. Like people are getting bitten to spread the fungus, but not
Right.
like they're not being eaten, right?
Right.
So this is an all ages Marvel Zombies book, the first ever, technically. And so, is it kind of cute and fun? It's not a childish book, but it's also like, it's fine, you know?
Yeah.
It is what it is. What I do want to talk about, just because I love DC versus Vampires. Like when they did the 12 issue miniseries, like
Hmm.
I was talking about it every single time it came out on Comic Talk, right?
Yeah.
I loved it back then. Is this one a sequel or is it a spin-off? I mean, it seems like a sequel. There's some really cool things, and we were talking about Elseworlds and alternate timelines earlier. This one also it's like it's innovative. It's telling new stories, even though we see this like end of the world vampire apocalypse sort of situation.
Hmm.
Um, and what's something that they introduced in this series, in this one specifically, in World War V, is that Mr. Miracle is a vampire, but he has all his intellect. Like he
Okay.
is a human in a way, and he's also a vampire, almost to the point of like, because he's a master escape artist, maybe he's escaped the confines of what it means to be a vampire,
Right.
right? But he has a child, and there's a prophecy that a child born of vampire and um, non-vampire will either save the world or doom it. And so there's
Okay.
this added like baby philosophy kind of or prophecy, and you do see a scene which people who like erotic things, you do see a scene of Mr. Miracle essentially having sex with Big Barda. She's huge. She's very huge. Otto Schmidt draws her very big.
Yeah.
And you see her being like, "Hey, babe, you can like vamp out on me. It won't do anything to me." Like, like, because he's like, "I don't want to get worked up, otherwise the vampire comes out." And she's like, "Bring the
Right.
vampire out. I don't care." And so I'm assuming that's when we see conception. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But like, it's a fun book, but it's also kind of sad. There's a sad moment. I'm gonna post about it on Instagram. There's a sad moment where Batwoman protects Damien, and they're both vampires, but they're good vampires.
Yeah.
Um, and Damien, I mean, she dies, and Damien's sad about it, and like
Yeah.
there's some good moments in this. So I definitely both Marvel and DC are really innovating this sort of alternate timeline sort of thing. It's not paint by numbers. It's not Mad Libs for this plot. Like, it does a good job. I like it. I can't recommend it enough. The original DC versus Vampires, there's some big twists and turns. I need to buy it. I just realized I need to get it. There has to be a 12 issue hardcover.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
I know there's 6 issue compilations, but I don't know if there's a 12 issue collected edition, but I need to do it. That's pretty much it. Those are all the books that we read this week. So thank you so much, Drew, for coming on this, reading a bunch,
Hey,
talking
thanks for
about a
having me
bunch. We
again.
found things to talk about. I know it was super awkward because neither of us like talking.
Because nobody likes talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get going, Drew, where can people find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
I got let's see, social medias. Uh, Pretty much everywhere. Find me, Drew X Deficit. Smack dab in the middle of the DC Universe voting series once again. It's back after 4 years. Um, I let's see. I got new music out. Started a new band called Good Grief. I have another new band that's called Like Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Have our first show in Springfield, Illinois on November 13th. So if anybody is in near Springfield, Illinois,
Are they
uh,
eating the dogs, eating the cats?
no, that's
Springfield,
Ohio.
Ohio,
Mm.
which where they're not. Let's
They're not
clarify.
doing that.
Yes.
They're very much not doing that.
Yes.
Um, on top of that, I got December 4th, my professional comics debut comes out. It's called I got a story in Batman Smells Robin Laid an Egg, this year's DC Comics holiday special. It's anchored by Marv Wolfman writing a Dead Man story. There's a story in there about the Joker kind of doing a spin on It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know
Okay.
who, yeah, I don't know who else is in it, who wrote what, but I do know that I'm in there, and
Good stuff.
I
Congrats.
am writing a set of characters who I am a big fan of. So
Okay.
there,
Okay. Um, I very much looking forward to that and reading that. So anyone out there who's not following
that'll
Drew,
be my pick of the week
okay,
that week
all
if
right,
if I'm on the show.
you're allowed to be self-serving. In fact, I will schedule you for that show.
For December 5th.
Okay, yes. Um, Thank you so much, Drew. Thank you to everybody out there who's watching and or listening. If you're watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show. And if you're listening to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, etc., etc., we're on all those podcast platforms. This show is Comic Talk. We do this every Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about all the comics that came out that week. But we have other shows that we do here at the Keeg, whether it's the Keeg Talks, where we talk about movies, TV shows, so on and so forth, or maybe it's our ongoing interview series called the Keeg Chats, or the show that comes in every month or so called State of X, where we talk about X-Men comics and everything X-Men news for that month. So definitely stay tuned to find out more about all these shows. Where can you find out more about all these shows? Go to @The Keeg Show anywhere on social media. TikTok and Instagram are our two biggest ones, but we're also on Threads, Twitter, Facebook, @The Keeg Show /The Keeg Show, whatever. Let us know you guys are out there, whether you're watching us, listening to us. Like, comment, follow, subscribe, do your thing. We're also on patreon.com /The Keeg Show if you want to find a way to give back to the Keeg. That is pretty much everything, I think. Thank you guys so much for being out there, laughing, loving, listening to us. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk for the week of October 10th, 2024. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Super